How's it going, everybody? It's Carlos, the host of your Bring on the Blitz podcast, and I'm here with Papi. How's it going, Papi?
¿Qué es lo que hace, pa?
There you go. And of course, today we got the one and only, the guys from the Full Seam Ahead podcast, giving you top tier Astros content. We got the one and only Cantu. How's it going, Angel?
Good, good. Thank you for having us today. We're really excited for this podcast.
There you go. And of course, we got the one and only Lorenzo. How's it going, Lorenzo?
Going good. Thank you for the invite and looking forward to talk about Astros and Texans here.
There you go. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to be talking about Astros and Texans here. It's our Esquina podcast network powerhouse that we got going on today. So with this and more, when we come back from our intro, let's go. All right, now we're back. Hey, I love the fact that you guys are on because it's like we do kind of have a history together. In our other show, we kind of started together, and that's kind of how we met. And it feels like our trajectory has been about the same, and then we kind of go separate ways, and then we kind of come back and meet up and so forth. And every time we have a show together, it's always a blast. And I'm glad that we get to do this on the Esquina podcast network. Now, us being part of Bring on the Blitz, and you guys who literally have been on there for some time as well from Full Steam Ahead, and like you guys are the ones that I listen to whenever I need to hear Astros and MLB content. Like you guys show that you're so analytical. You guys give precise, accurate numbers, and I'm just kind of taken away by how you guys do your show, and I just gotta say I'm a big fan of it. So honestly, guys, kudos to both of you. You guys do an amazing job, and the fact that we get to have you guys on here, and you guys are one of the big reasons why we are now part of the our Esquina podcast network. Man, that means a lot to us. So honestly, thank you for being with us, and then eventually coming our way back and stuff like that, finding each other here. So man, I appreciate y'all, and again, big fan of y'all's work.
No, I mean, we appreciate it too. I mean, shoot, I mean, like real quick. I mean, we did start up at the same time doing this podcast kind of work. Like I said, I've listened to y'all doing y'all Texans work, NFL work. I know y'all are one of the best at it. And I knew this as soon as we are going to jump on the Arskata Podcast Network, I knew this was no question of getting somebody with the Texans that has knowledge of the Texans, that has knowledge of the NFL as well, what's going on. Like for me personally, I don't know a lot about football, what gap the running back goes to, all that stuff, or what kind of positions they go to. And I know y'all do a great job at it. So yeah, like you're saying, I mean, we're kind of going like this, but hey, we're starting it now with the Esquina Podcast Network and going to continue going forward.
Yeah, something I always say on the Full Steam Ahead podcast when something exciting happens, like big things coming, and I can say the same thing for y'all because it's like Lorenzo kind of hit it. Y'all started the same, and then we're back, kind of like a full circle moment here, for this podcast. It was very exciting.
Oh no, yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to this and this partnership for years to come, man. But hey, another thing that I'm very excited for is the Texans have OTAs going on right now, and basically the rest of the NFL as well, organized team activities. So right now they're voluntary. So I know some people will look at, well, how come this player's not there? That's the speculation that goes on. Well, I'll give you an example. Stephon Diggs, one of the Texans acquisitions that they got during free agency.
The biggest, you would say. The biggest acquisition.
Yeah, biggest acquisition, really. Not being there. And of course, with the acquisition of Stephon Diggs, based on some of his history with previous teams, it's perceived as, well, here we go. Immediately, here we go. We're starting because of what's perceived of Stephon Diggs. But if you look closely to his Instagram, different accounts, he's actually working out. It's not like he's out partying or anything like that, or not doing it, or not being contributing to this team. He's actually, out training in different places and things like that, as he posts on his Instagram account. So he's actually doing the legwork, that's necessary to be a contributing factor in this team. One of the things that really sticks out to me is the way that they structured his contract. For those who are not too familiar with it, Stephon Diggs basically signed a year contract with the Texans. It's almost like if it was an audition, really.
It's like a tryout, yeah.
A tryout, really. And the Texans, what helps with this situation is the Texans have so much, they have plenty of cap space next season. So it's almost like, okay, with all that comes with Stephon Diggs and the locker room and here's and whatever goes on in the locker room with him, in my opinion, this is beneficial for the Texans, and it was a great way that they did it because it kind of tells Stephon Diggs and it kind of lights a little fire under him. Hey, this is your performance here. You get it done. We do great. Guess what? You get paid. And it's motivational because in reality, yes, he does want to get the ball, which is what he was his biggest issue in Buffalo, that he felt like he wasn't getting the ball with Josh Allen. So now you have an incentive, really, if you think about it that way. You have an incentive. You perform well, you get paid next season. And it's basically a performance thing. And to me, I feel like it's a win-win situation. That's been the theme with the Texans. Low risk, high what do you call it? Low risk, high reward. There you go. That's what it was.
Yeah.
See, my biggest thing with all that, man, is like I do have a little bit of an issue with it.
Sure. Go ahead.
Obviously, I was excited when the acquisition was made. I didn't think we were gonna get that big of a name to come to Houston. Notably, Houston is not a huge free agent destination, right? The way the contract is set up, this being a tryout year for him, a lot of people see it as a win-win, like you just said, Carlos. I'm a little bit more on the fence about it because if he does well, he will get paid next season. We know that. Doesn't mean that it's going to be by us. Doesn't mean that he's not going to look to go to somebody else. Because we like what's for us, what is doing well now? We made it to the second round last year of the playoffs. If we repeat that, does that mean he will want to stay? What if like a position opens up in a more of a sure thing, like a Chiefs, like maybe a Baltimore, maybe a San Francisco? Like we don't know what the market is going to look like next year. So yes, he could actually put up numbers this year, like amazing numbers. We know what CJ can do with the receiving core that he had this year, but I feel like we cannot neglect the development of the other wide receiving core to appease Diggs. We know what the history is. He can be a bit of a diva, mildly, but at the end of the day, he's still, top 5, top 3 wide receivers in the league. Mm-hmm. So it's a tough one for me personally. I wish the contract was set up so that the incentive is not just that, he wants to get paid next year. I wish he would just want to play at the best level he can just to be competitive, not just for the money. I know it's a tough ask for NFL players, especially in today's money climate. Yeah. They're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger every single year. But I don't know, man. It's just a little bit more on the fence. I know he's not at the OTAs right now. That's completely understandable. I just want to see how it develops on the field. Because it is 1 year doesn't mean that the Texans are not fully on win now mode right now. They made some big acquisitions. I feel like they're thinking more of a 2-3 year plan with CJ. They I just fucking grew up went through puberty just now. But more of a 2-3 plan year with CJ. I feel like the Stephon Diggs is a little bit of a rush move, but I am excited to see how it develops.
Okay. Sounds good. Angel, what are your thoughts on the Stephon Diggs acquisition?
I like it. I think it's a really step up for the Texans. I think Nico Collins played great last year. So did Tank Dell, and now you add Stephon Diggs. It's like a little 3-headed monster there for Stroud to kind of play with. And I mean, I understand the concern about the OTAs and all the off-field drama that has been with Diggs, but the fact that during the offseason, Stroud has been linking up with Stephon Diggs. There's video of them kind of together, kind of just throwing the ball, playing with the ball around, and that just kind of brings in the positive of this acquisition. And honestly, it's they're volunteer OTAs. I don't think Diggs was going to go there no matter what team he was at, just because he doesn't have anything to prove. There's a reason why the Texans gave up so much for him, because it kind of really stands out from that. But I mean, I think overall, I think it's going to work out for the Astros just because it gives that threat. And
Texans.
I'm sorry for the Texans. Yes, Texans. It's a big threat from there.
Talk
Yeah.
about
We would
Hold on,
love
we
to
just got
see-
done
We
recording.
would love to see Diggs on out on left field.
You're hilarious.
My bad. I didn't realize.
Hey, he's played in the softball classic. Don't get it wrong, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there
Get
you
it
go.
wrong.
There you go. There you go.
Don't get it wrong.
A good off the bench kind of bat, you know.
All right, Lorenzo, what is your take on the whole Stephon Diggs?
Yeah, real quick. I mean, they did a good job. I think the Texans in the offseason, obviously, you like Angel said. I mean, that's a three-headed monster.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about Stephon Diggs' work ethic because, like Angel said too, in the offseason, he's linked up with Tank Dell. He's linked up with C.J. Stroud. It's going to be interesting with the ball placement for each receiver, how many touches they're going to get, how many yards they're going to get. That's going to be the interesting part right there. Because Nico Collins, I want to say this is his last year on contract of his rookie contract for the
Before he
Texans.
gets paid, yeah.
Yeah, so you're looking at two players that could be possibly getting paid elsewhere.
Correct.
So,
No,
I think, like I said, I think it was a good move, but I'm just going to be interested to see how the offense is going to work, especially now too. They just paid Dalton Schultz too as to be their tight end.
yeah,
And
Yeah, but
Oh,
we
so-
also got a tight end on the draft too, so it's not like
Yeah.
it's Schultz or die. You know, like if
Yeah.
he starts like underperforming a little bit, you know, last season he drops a few key passes.
Still a
throughout the
lot. I
season.
mean, you're still paid money though for him. That's
Exactly, because he was probably the best tight end in free agency that we could afford
Yeah.
to keep, right?
Yeah.
So I
now,
think all in all, I think it was a good acquisition.
and I was just gonna add with the Nico Collins is now you have two wide receivers who have something to play for too. Like it's a get paid, so it kind of gives you like a little edge because they have something to play for. They're probably gonna be botting out this season.
And I hope that Nico takes it as a challenge. You know, like last year after Tank Dell went down with his injury, he became wide receiver number one for CJ, and he really like developed and shined through. Like he had a really bunch of huge games, a bunch of huge catches. Hopefully, you know, with Diggs stepping in, he doesn't see like, okay, I'm going back to wide receiver one. I mean, wide receiver two, wide receiver three. Now that Dell is back as well, I hope he actually takes it as a challenge and is okay. You know, I can be that guy who puts over 1,000 yards, over 10 touchdowns, like for this team for CJ. So it'll be interesting to see. Definitely.
And you see that, and you see, and I remember you mentioned earlier, Papi, that you weren't too sure if the Texans were on win now mode. The reason why in my opinion, why I think they are the acquisition of guys like Danielle Hunter as well. Danielle Hunter, who, a guy that turned down more money from the Colts to come over to the Houston Texans.
I mean, who wants to go to the Colts?
Well, the thing is, he saw a. He decided not to go for the bag. He saw potential
Right.
in the Texans, which now it makes you think. And then also with Stephon Diggs, this whole it's almost like a stigma now. It used to be a stigma where a lot of free agents didn't want to come over to Houston, but now we're starting to see it again with Danielle Hunter as being one of them, and then Stephon Diggs, who was on it, and that all goes into play with the culture change that has happened since D'Amico and D'Amico, Nick Caserio, Hannah McNair have all created now. And I want to go back to what you said about and the reason why I believe that, why they're in win now mode, is because all those acquisitions, when you had Nico Collins last season, who had 80 receptions for 1,297 yards, he was 3 yards away from 1,300, was averaging 16.2 average yards, and as long as was 75, 8 touchdowns. And then on the other side, you had Tank Dell, who got his season shortened. If it wasn't for that injury, he was on pace for going over 1,000. He reached
Easily.
709 yards, and he had I think his longest was 68, and he had 7 touchdowns in a shortened season.
With the way CJ was playing, he honestly could have gone those extra 300 yards in like 2 games.
Absolutely.
Not just that. I think they could have beat Baltimore in that second round. Honestly,
I think so
if
too.
they had 2 of those healthy receivers, because that's 2 dynamic duels right there, and you're gonna have Patrick Queen line up with one that can possibly line up with one, and then the other, I think, who was another one that was on that team as a cornerback for the Ravens. I'm not 100% sure.
Queen, isn't it Queen?
Yeah.
Patrick Queen was a safety though. I thought.
Patrick Queen was
okay.
a linebacker that went over to the Steelers now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he went over to the Steelers.
My thing with that is like, yes, maybe win now mode or whatever. Like that's the what people on the outside are looking that the Texans are doing. But you got to keep in mind the schedule last year compared to this year, way easier.
Oh,
we're gonna talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah,
all those stats, all those yards.
Yeah.
Those CJ and Dell and Schultz and all of them put all those numbers against this upcoming set of matchups. It's hard to say. And yes, Stephon Diggs coming in is great. Joe Mixon coming in is great. The defense getting better is great. I still don't believe that this team, as it is constructed right now, it's a championship team. I do not think so just yet.
Okay.
That's why I believe like this year is going to be more of like a test. Like last year was CJ's rookie season. It's like he elevated pretty much everybody around him. This year is like, okay, can he do it again?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And then the challenge that goes in, well, one thing that I'll piggyback off of you, the challenge there is that now there's tape on CJ Stroud at second year. So that's also you have to make sure that also comes into play. So I'll agree with you on that one. But I think all those things were taken into consideration right before you got guys like Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, who last season had 1,034 yards, and he's been very consistent with the yardage. I think his lowest was 2 years ago, 814, and then before that was 2020. And then even Dalton Schultz last season, he had 635 yards. So you had guys going over 500 yards in that Texans offense that first season with CJ Stroud as a rookie. So definitely the D'Amico effect, the CJ Stroud effect, whatever you want to call it, it was clicking. And then obviously all this depth that got added along with it. Now you're just adding more weapons to CJ Stroud's arsenal, right? And then, of course, now you're also stacking up your defense as well. You got plenty of depth. I think the only concern right now on the defensive side of the ball is just your cornerback, your CB2, who's on the opposite side of Derek Stingley. Who's going to be your main guy.
Okay, we did get that rookie, so hopefully
we did, yeah. So hopefully at that point it's we'll see what's going on, because right now I think they're banking on Jeff Okudah, and that's going to be where it's going to be a rotation, because as we've seen, D'Amico likes to rotate his players. It's almost like fresh set of legs kind of theory where they rotate the players out. So I feel like you're going to see a lot of players switching out in that CB2 position, and also depends on what they're playing as well, how they disguise the defensive schemes and things like that. So, Papi, you did bring up the Texans schedule, and I would move over to that real quick. The Texans schedule. One of the posts that I had that we had made earlier on this season was that the Texans do have a challenging schedule in 2024, like you said. 7 games are against teams who went to the playoffs in 2023. And of course, not to mention the Texans are going to play 11 teams that went over 500. And the question is, how successful can the Texans be? Well, and with that being said, the NFL gave the Texans basically 6 games to prove it. All eyes are going to be on the Texans, and if one thing that makes the CJ elite is he performs really well under pressure. Now, granted, we can go back and forth, of course, with the game against Baltimore, right? But I think at this point you're like, well, how much did he learn from it or whatnot? So, looking at the schedule, is there a certain game that you are really looking forward to, and why? And if you guys want me to put the schedule up, I can, so y'all can see it.
I got it right here.
Yeah, I have
it. Yeah, I have it here too.
Yeah. All right, Papi. Well, actually, no, I started with you last time. So, Lorenzo, I'm gonna start with you. Is there a certain game that you're looking forward to this season?
It's going to be that Kansas City game in Week 16. I think that's going to be the biggest one, the biggest test, I guess, for CJ Stroud going against, it's like how Brady was when it was him and Patrick Mahomes in that AFC Championship. See if you could get over the GOAT. It's basically going to be like this. And it's going to be at Arrowhead, which is a tough environment to go and win on the road. but you've seen Jared Goff do it. You've seen Lamar Jackson do it at a time. Obviously, Tom Brady has done it. There's going to be a big test.
Joe Burrow's amazing at it.
Oh yeah, I mean he almost owns Arrowhead, but it's going to be a big test for them because not just that, it's going to be on week 16 and it's getting closer to the postseason to see if they're going to what seat they're going to give. They're even going to get a seat if they're even going to make the playoffs. So being able to kind of perform on that game against one of the best quarterbacks, I think, of course, in our generation, but even in the NFL and history wise, I think that's going to be a huge test for CJ.
Okay, so Kansas City for you, right? No, great point right there. Exactly, it's going to be the best test for CJ Stroud,
and it's going to be in that right in the middle between playing the Dolphins and Baltimore as well. So
yes,
exactly.
It's
going to see like what you're made of if you're compete with the biggest, best, especially in the postseason. Like Miami, obviously Tua was almost there, and then Baltimore, they were close. I mean, they had home field advantage. You saw that how that ended up.
Exactly, and the thing is, we're playing. The Texans are playing in the cold also at Kansas City, so that is something to take into consideration. Angel, what is your take? Which game are you looking forward to?
I'm going to say with the Week 10 matchup between the Detroit Lions and the Houston Texans. I think those are similar teams. If you like both high-powered offense. I think the difference in that game is going to be the defense. I know Detroit Lions kind of defense way, but they've stepped up, especially in those playoff games, those late games in the season. So it'll be an interesting matchup with those. Again, both teams are great. They can score easily. They can, they do a lot of movement around the field where they can get guys open. It'll be a pretty interesting matchup there.
Yeah, when we were doing the schedule predictions a couple shows ago, we were talking about that one being one of those exciting games that we wanted to see because we just felt like it was going to be kind of like a back and forth. I don't know if you guys remember that Kansas City Chiefs Rams Monday Night Football game that it was just back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
Back and forth. High scoring. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, might have been one of the most high scoring, if not the high scoring games in the history of Monday Night Football. So in this one, in my opinion, I think we're gonna see something at least similar. I don't think to that, that aspect, but at least somewhere along the lines of just back and forth. It's definitely going to be a great match.
No, sure. Definitely bet the over on points on that one.
Yeah.
And I would have to agree with you, Angel. When we did our show, talking about the schedule when it came out, I said that was probably one of the games that I want to watch the most. I feel like last season, besides the Texans, to me the most fun team to watch was the Detroit Lions, especially because there wasn't much that I was expecting out of them. We already know their history and whatnot. So the fact that they just kept winning and they started the season beating Kansas City on week 1, it was like, okay, maybe the Lions will be an interesting team to watch. And they became like, anybody who hated Mahomes kind of wanted to see that Lions make it to the Super Bowl and beat him. But in the end, that wasn't meant to be. So that, to me, is going to be a very exciting, high-scoring match. A lot of, year 2 players, seeing how they develop and whatnot. But I'm going to switch it up real quick, and I'm going to have to go with Texans Cowboys.
Of course.
Because the Cowboys, man, they're on a rough spot right now. And the Texans are flying high, and nothing would make me happier than to see the city of Houston celebrating being the best team in Texas. We only get to play this team once every 4 years. Feels like 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, not 4 years, 2 years, but it feels like 10
no,
years.
You're right.
It's 4 years.
But
yeah.
Is it 4 years?
This was the because of the 17 games.
They had to add it, right?
This time it can't, but it's every World Cup year basically. That's how
it's like like in soccer when you have like you're in the middle of the season, like the 2 biggest teams, like their rivalry, like records don't matter, history doesn't matter. It's just like that game. That's how I feel when it comes to Dallas and Texans. It's just a fun watch regardless. So I'm excited to see that. I'll say that for sure.
Maybe it's a recruiting for CJ to bring Michael Parsons to Houston. Maybe they've been hanging out this whole offseason.
I hope they do a podcast before and right after.
It's like
Go ahead, did you see the sumo wrestling one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man!
I wanted to do a podcast right after the game, full pads on and everything.
Well, pads.
Maybe
It's gonna be like this.
yeah,
With the
exactly.
Yeah,
mic
like-
like that.
How you like that? How you like
Right.
that? 300 yards on your head.
Yeah. Dude. I want to say this. So the Lions game, don't get me wrong. I think we all want to see what CJ and the rest of this team is made out of by obviously going against either Kansas City or Baltimore. That's definitely, I think, the top on everybody's list.
Mm.
For me, oh, go ahead. Did you want to say something? Kenzie?
I was gonna say with Baltimore, it'd be interesting because it's a Thursday game, so it's only 4 days to prepare. It's
only like 4 days, so
And right after the Chiefs, you only got 4 days to face Baltimore, man.
yeah, exactly.
And the Lions, real quick. I mean, they're on Battle Red Day.
Exactly.
Those uniforms out.
Those
uniforms.
If they were the black and blue and we were the candy red, if the Texans were the candy red, oh, that's just going to be, now if that's just going to be amazing. Obviously, it won't probably happen, but it's the fact that imagine two of the teams that have some of the best uniforms out there in the NFL. Sorry, Broncos. Some of the best uniforms out there in the NFL, like going at it. That right there it's jersey sales. It's marketing. Marketing 101. Exactly. So I wanted to say I do want to see the Lions game because there was a small bet that was happening last season where there was a bet that what if the Lions and the Texans were both in the Super Bowl last season, and then they're almost like starting that back up. That'd be kind of fun to see those two teams with the uniforms go at it.
I wonder what the odds were on that.
Yeah, and so there's a little, it keeps coming up. So whatever, but nonetheless, the uniform wise, I definitely like to see it. The Texans and the Lions are both very similar in the ways that they've kind of struggled to get to the point that they're in. But to me, I do agree with Papi. I do want to see that Cowboys game. I usually go I've been going since 2014 to the games in either Arlington or here. I don't miss those. Those are my top ones that I will always go to, just because family. I have family that are diehard Cowboys fans, and obviously, yeah. and so yes, believe me, I let them know it. So there's definitely family. So it adds on. I think the only inconvenient part is the fact that it's on a Monday night as opposed to like a Sunday game, but it's a Monday night, but it's another primetime game, and it's obviously on purpose because I think what Papi said, there was a graphic that came out, I think by Fox Sports, that depicted, are the Texans the best team in Texas now? And they compared, of course you will have the fandom of the Cowboys, reach out about, talk about their championships and things like that. And, the 5 rings or whatever. And that's fine and dandy, but that was years ago. That was
decades.
Right? They're probably you all right?
Decade. That was a lifetime ago.
Okay, I was about to say, I thought you were mimicking the Cowboys in the playoffs. Okay, anyway. That's what I thought we were doing. Anyway, but nonetheless, of course, it's all fun and games. But nonetheless, it's it's exciting to see the two teams in prime time. Clearly, there's an in-state rivalry about it. The times that I've gone to either Arlington or here at NRG, even though it is a rivalry, an in-state rivalry. The way that the atmosphere around it, it's, even though it's a big rivalry, as we see it, it's like a family feel to it. Like it was a lot of fun. I went last season with Rios to Arlington, and it was actually Rio. I think Rios had a different mindset going in, but when he walked out, you could tell it was completely different from what he thought. He had fun, which is surprising. He had a lot of fun, and so we were kicking it with Cowboys fans also, and it was fun. I mean, it was a fun.
There's no hate behind it. It's just like competitiveness.
Yeah. I mean, depends on how you feel, but I think I honestly think that's the matchup I'm looking forward to. And again, 6 primetime games that the Texans have going on. It's great exposure. It's great marketing. Listen, last season they had zero games.
Yeah.
I think they were flexed in. I think one of them, if I'm not mistaken.
It was a Saturday game.
The Saturday game, yeah.
It was that one.
Yeah, and this year, I mean, they're going to go with how do you call it, on Netflix. They're also going to be on Netflix this season. One
That's
of those.
crazy.
It's
No.
you got to get
Unbelievable
like
to see that.
eight different freaking streaming
Right.
services to watch all of it.
The average NFL fan will pay $895, I think, if they wanted to watch all their games. If I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
no.
That's crazy.
So that's just for consideration. So
Catch them on
all
Twitter.
eyes are on the Texans, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Angel, you have brought up. That's the last thing I'll talk about the Texans here. You brought up a good topic, the bye week, week 14. I like it just because your team gets hot, and then towards the end is when you have some of the tougher part of the schedule. That's why I'm a fan. I'm okay with the Texans having that week 14 bye week before you start going into the latter part. Well, you're already technically in the latter part of the schedule, but
Yeah.
you are
The
you
final
know,
stretch.
final stretch of it. Yeah. And I think that break at that particular point is definitely going to come in handy for the Texans at that point, just because of the toughness of that schedule. Papi, what is your take on the schedule for it? On the
Yeah,
week?
man. Like we were talking a little bit off air, saying that how it's one of like the later bye weeks.
Right.
But given that we're gonna come from beating Titans and beating Jacksonville, right before Dolphins, Chiefs, and Baltimore, there's nothing better than a week's rest, especially with how little time the Texans are gonna have between the Chiefs and the Ravens. So you want to rest up all your players. Hopefully, the injury bug doesn't hit us as hard as it did last year with the offensive line, with the wide receiving core, stuff like that. It's gonna be, like you said, the final stretch. The most difficult part of the schedule is literally those last 4 games. The most decisive part of the schedule is really
Correct.
going to be those last 4 games. And if I'm anywhere close to my predictions, thinking that the Texans will go 10-7 at the end when it's all said and done, I feel like at least 2 of those wins better come in those last 4 games, because the seeding is going to be important. It's the toughest schedule the Texans have had in a minute. Can the Texans make the playoffs? This is going to be like the biggest test for them.
Yeah, definitely. Angel, what is your take on that week 14 thing?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of said it, like, for injuries. It's really good for fantasy football purposes. It's probably not so good. I know, I know, like, a lot of Texans players are gonna be drafted and be dependent on that. But overall, like Bobby said, like, it's a tough schedule after the bye week. It's the Miami Dolphins on that Sunday, then the Kansas City Chiefs on Saturday. So that's a day. They lose a day to prepare against the Chiefs as well, and then 4 days later it's the Baltimore Ravens. So I think they're gonna need, one, a healthy team, and two, like, manage their time management, their minutes to plan for all these teams.
Yeah, exactly. Lorenzo, what is your take on this, on the week 14 bye week?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, it's just kind of shocking that I've never seen the Texans go in a week 14.
I mean, it's
It's
the
always
first
been like
time.
weeks. Yeah, it's like been week 7, week 8, week 9. But week 14 is interesting. Like Angel was saying, Sunday, Saturday, Wednesday, and then think about it too. If the Tennessee Titans are good, that game could be a prime time on a Saturday. That game could be on a Sunday night. You just never know, because you don't know what's going to be happening, how how the standings are, going, and then the postseason as well. But yeah, I mean, like y'all said, I mean, it's well rested for the Texans, and it's going to be a huge test for them going
Right.
at the end of it.
And the last thing I'll leave you guys with, adding on to this, the week 14, why it's important. The schedule could be worse. I want to give you an example of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who will probably the last win that they'll have will be in November, and there's why. This is the last part of the schedule. You ready? So the last part of the schedule. So November 10th, they go against the Commanders. I predict that's their last win, because after November 10th, November 17th, they go against the Ravens, because divisional game. Then they go against the Browns the following week. Okay, give or take. Then they go against the Bengals. Then the Browns again. Then the Eagles. Then the Ravens. Then the Chiefs. and then the Bengals again.
Damn.
So whoever wrote the schedule really hates the Steelers. In my
Dude,
opinion.
there's maybe like 2 winnable games there.
That's what I was gonna say.
Anything.
There's
And-
maybe.
Maybe.
And then they also go against the Lions, the Bills.
True.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the Chargers.
Overall on the schedule, yes, they will eventually go. They got the Cowboys, and then they do have the Lions.
And
Sorry, Lions is preseason. My bad.
Yeah, preseason.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
but
Okay.
it's two new quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And
Isn't there actually? There's 3. Well, I mean, there's 2 that's fighting for the position, but there's 3, right? Isn't man, what's his name?
what's the
For
for
the
the
Steelers?
Steelers? Who's the third one?
No. I'm thinking Eagles. They traded away Kenny Pickett.
Yeah,
because right now they're starting it with Russ for sure.
they're
Russ
starting
and
with
Ben
Russ, and about halfway they're going to switch to Fields, and he's facing the worst part of that schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
All right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's what I'm saying. I feel like it could be worse, but that's why I'm okay after looking at the Steelers schedule. I think I'm okay with that week 14.
After this year, Fields is going to end up in Tampa Bay. I'm calling it now.
So you're saying Mike Tomlin's 500 plus record is over, the 500 winning percentage.
I would bet on it.
It's
If I was a
over.
betting man, which I'm not.
Over.
Yeah.
There's
Go
no way.
over.
There's no way.
Not even
Yeah.
if TJ Watt plays all these games and the way the Steelers defense has been through the years.
I say that we'll see this
I
week the
think
Cleveland Browns once.
I think they'll have one game over to be able to be over 500.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
You don't think
Eight. Well, what's it? Not 7-7.
It has to be 8-7, right?
8-7.
in
No,
order to be over, yes, 8-7 has to be.
no, not 9-8. 9-8, right?
Listen, oh yeah.
Yeah.
9-8.
I don't think they get 9. I don't see how they get 9.
Yeah.
I don't see.
I said
Never
it.
know.
I do say they beat the Cleveland Browns once. I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they
Yeah.
can split it. They can
I
split
feel like
it.
they beat the Browns once, and I feel like they beat the Bengals once.
I think the Eagles could be a possibility. The way that they performed,
Ooh.
you don't know. The way they
Counting on
performed last
Jalen
year.
Hurts.
I mean, what did Jalen Hurts do the last part of the season?
Saquon though.
Wasn't he struggling? Yeah, I mean, you can
Yeah,
have
but
Saquon.
yeah, exactly.
Top 3 backs in the league. Okay, yeah, you can have Saquon.
Think about it. If you're all right, Saquon, yes, he was a big part of obviously the Giants, right?
He was the only part of the Giants.
Right. That's about it. Once he left, that was it. They really didn't have anything else, right? So, I think we talked about this off air. Would you have rather gotten the Saquon or Joe Mixon? I'm okay with Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon. Yeah.
I'm okay with Joe Mixon. I would have rather had Saquon.
Man, I mean, I think at that point, it's almost like your debate with Jose Abreu thing.
No, because Jose Abreu was an old man. Saquon's still top 3 backs in the league.
I mean, I like Joe Mixon because of it. No, I meant like, remember when you talked about how we could have spent a little bit more money or whatever in another place with Joe Mixon, you actually get
True. Okay, yeah.
the same amount of performance, but for less money than you would have paid.
But you ask, which one would you prefer have? If you give me the choice between Joe Mixon and Saquon, I'm picking Saquon 9 days out of the week.
Okay, so you would have been happier with Saquon.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Not to say that I don't like the Joe Mixon deal.
Okay.
I'm just saying you
would have had.
If we're playing Madden.
We're playing. Okay. We're doing
if you give me both guys, let me get Saquon, dude.
All right.
Like fantasy football.
There you go. All right. So now, I feel like we covered what we needed to on as far as the Texans goes, the OTAs, 6 primetime game, all eyes on Texans. Just on the OTAs, the last part I want to cover, I'm looking at how they're utilizing Joe Mixon in that passing game. Man, that's another receiver threat right there for the Texans. The way he's catching the ball, the way that they're kind of getting along with CJ Stroud on OTAs. Have you seen the YouTube videos of how they're really going? It is amazing how much chemistry they're developing now with CJ Stroud. It's definitely something to look forward to in the upcoming season. And right now you can see the chemistry. I saw Nico doing a few routes as well, catching long passes. I've seen again Joe Mixon catching a pass from few yards out, that's another weapon that you're using. Or he already has enough weapons. Now you're using Joe Mixon in the passing as well, like they did with Singletary. That's going to be definitely very helpful. You can sneak him in also as well on the backfield as well. So honestly, it's a great addition. So all eyes will be on the Texans definitely. All right, let's move on over here to our Astros, the specialty of the Full Seam Ahead podcast. You guys, again, top tier when it comes to Astros content and of course MLB content as well. I wanted to ask you, okay, so we've seen the Astros, they're pointing up. I know that they had they.
Let me rephrase this.
What was that?
Guys, are the Astros back? Be honest.
Angel?
I'd say it's too early to tell, but could potentially be competing at the end of the year. Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Are they making the playoffs? You think? The way they've been playing, they've been up and down, more down than up all season. It's fair to say. The series against the Brewers was a good showing, I would say, all things considered. The series against the Angels has been very up and down. Really good showings, followed by not so good of a showing. I think today it was 2-1. I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying, Hunter Brown only allowed 2 hits in like 6 innings, I want to say. Is he like back? If I'm being honest, I feel like his place on the rotation is still up for grabs. The only reason why he's still on there, I would say, is because there's not really a lot of other options right now. So, given that pitching has been one of the biggest issues for the Astros in this first half of the season, what do you think is going to have to change for the Astros, this streak that they're going on, to continue?
I think they have to win the games they have to win. So like that's taking advantage of the teams that are under 500, the teams, the pitching matchups that are not like the aces on that team, right? For me, I think that's the big part. Take advantage of those, and then just kind of like the next man up mentality. I know, like you said, I mean, like you're not wrong on assessing Hunter Brown. Like he has been struggling. I think he ends up in the bullpen, but overall, I think it's like once Hunter Brown or like once Renault Blanco comes back from suspension, he again steps up, like comes back where he leaves off. I know, so you can add your input.
Yeah, I mean, start rotation. I think that's going to be the key. Yeah, Angel said like the wins that need to be wins. Like for example, I mean, they're going to be playing Oakland. We talked about that series. That's a very winnable series. That is very sweepable as well. Coming into June, you got the Cardinals that haven't been playing really good baseball. Angels, I mean, the Astros already have seen how they've played from this series. San Francisco hasn't been playing good baseball. Detroit, they've been doing good. They got a Cy Young over there.
Yep.
The White Sox, Colorado, the Mets. So these are all, like Angel said, that you have to win these series that are going to matter. And that was one thing, I guess, you could say the Astros kind of struggled on last year. It was trying to win games against Kansas City, against Oakland. I mean, it was not really great job, not great baseball that the Astros were playing. A plus to add on to that is that they're playing really good at home. Last year, they couldn't win a bunch of games at home. Yeah, exactly. In the ALCS, I mean, that's a prime example. No one could have won at their own, home field. And the Rangers it mattered at Game 7. And honestly, if the Astros win Game 7, I think they go back to back. No offense to Arizona, but
I agree.
I think it's the rotation for me.
The way that the Astros played, I believe it was Game 6 when they were playing, and correct me if I'm wrong here. It was Game 6 played in Arlington.
No,
it was in Houston.
The last 2 were in Houston.
5. Sorry, I think it was 5. The way they played Game 5 in Arlington, it was like it started off a little slow, and then they just came from behind, and I think that was a came from behind win, if I'm not mistaken here, right?
Yeah.
Game 5, yeah, and it was, to me, it was like, okay, winnable. The only thing it was what you just brought up. Nobody could really win at home. It was weird, and now you definitely see it. You definitely see the wins. That's not a factor in anymore. Except I think that I felt in my opinion, I feel like they lost winnable games. The Astros games that they could have won. The Angel series here. They lost that series, and honestly, they're the Angels are they're at the bottom, right? They're not second.
They're
Yeah.
they're
They're
20 and 30 right now.
Yeah. So, and Poppy brought up a point in one of our shows from our other show that the division is open. The division is technically open. The Astros are what now? They were 5 games. Are they still 5, or is it now
They're
changed because
I
of
think
I'm
there's
looking
6.
at it. No, it still says 5 here.
5?
Seattle's
Okay.
20. Yeah, Seattle's 27, 23. Texas
Okay.
is 24 and 26, and then the Astros are 22, 28.
So it's still kind of open in a way. It's still kind of open in a way. Do you guys? One of the questions that I asked in one of our other shows is: do you guys foresee any trades happening before the trade deadline? Any flashy trades that you might see from the Astros? Do you guys think and that may happen or it may not
Just to
happen?
try to turn things around, like
Or
something that's going to make an impact, not just like putting a band-aid
Mhm.
on a cut wound type of thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it just depends. I think it just depends on how they're rolling into the trade deadline. I think that's going to be the factor for
Mhm.
them because we've talked about it before, Angel and I. If the Astros are like 15 games out
Mhm.
of the division, there's a strong possibility that they can maybe go trade Alex Bregman,
Mm.
Ryan Presley on the year of his contract as well. Because as everybody knows, for the Astros farm system, they are one of the worst. They're like 28th or 29th
Mhm.
in Major League Baseball. So being able to get some assets out of trades, trading away Bregman and trading away Presley, I think that could help a lot. It just depends. Maybe if they're winning and they're close in the division at the deadline, you're looking at small moves. You're not looking at big names that they're going to go and trade after for.
Right.
Probably small moves, just like the Atlanta Braves did in 2021. That's how I will compare the Astros
Okay.
season 2.
But any moves, any type of moves, whether it's trades or anything like that, it's gonna have to be towards pitching, I would say. Because
Yeah.
if you're looking at the stats, like offensive wise, the Astros haven't been bad this season. They're just leaving a lot of people on base, but they are getting on base more than a lot of teams. So I feel like with the pitching, just it comes to the point where like the Astros are scoring, but the other team is outscoring us, right? So are there changes going? Like, do the Astros need to make changes on that rotation? You mentioned it just a little bit ago. The rotation is going to be key. We know pitching wins you the World Series. We know that's how Washington did it when the Nationals won. Uh, we know that's what the Mets were trying to do when they signed Scherzer and Verlander, right? For like $100 billion each. So are the Astros going to look into trying to do something else, something there, or are they just going to trust? Garcia's going to come back, McCullers maybe, all the other guys, Hunter Brown, Framber, they're eventually going to get it together. Like what is the biggest X factor in that pitching rotation that could make or break the Astros going into maybe the trade deadline or maybe the postseason?
I think right now it's just kind of the waiting game for the Astros. I mean, they are making some small moves. They signed Eric Lar. He was off assignment from the Brewers. He's a left-handed pitcher, but the thing with his contract, he has monthly opt-out, so he can opt out, I believe, at the end of July and at the end of August. But again, to me, that's just insurance, just in case Lance McCullers is not ready when he's supposed to be ready, or Luis Garcia. Like, I think it's just a waiting game for them because they're not going to bring in a big arm and then have Garcia in the bullpen or have McCullers in the bullpen, right? So, like, not just because they don't want to, maybe a comfort level for that, like for them as well. It might be, I think, because I think what JP France and Hunter Brown do is phenomenal. That you can interchange them in the bullpen, but not every pitcher's like that. So, I think they're in a tough spot. Like regarding the trade deadline, I'm gonna go with Connor Lorenzo. I don't think they trade Bregman or Presley, but I mean, I guess we can strap some debate there anytime, right? So about the things, but it's just they're in a tough spot. They don't have the farm system to get a big name, and I don't see them train big guys like that as well. Like basically, like I don't see them giving up on the season as well. So it's just kind of like a balance over there.
If the Astros, I believe the Astros will make the postseason. I do believe that. I mean, the division last year came, to the very last day, and eventually the world champions came from our division. But if the Astros lose, whether it's on the wild card, or the second round, is this season viewed as a failure from the from ownership, from the fans' perspective, from from the players? Like, what would be a successful season? Because I the with the Astros, the winning it all isn't off the table with the score. But what would be an unsuccessful season for the Astros? Like
I think
enough for the organization to try to maybe shake things up coming next year.
I think if they don't make the playoffs, I think that's an unsuccessful season. If they make the playoffs, that's a successful season because from the get go, the Astros. Go ahead.
No, from the way they started, right? You would say
Yeah,
that. Oh,
from the get go. I mean, from the get go. I mean, the Astros having a ton of injuries right now, especially from starting pitching. I don't think nobody had counted Jose Urquidy missing the beginning of the season because the spring training he was doing really well. JP Francis, another one. I don't think anybody had expected Hunter Brown to be on this start. I don't think anybody expected Framber Valdez and Christian Javier missing starts earlier in this season. So if they make the playoffs, I think that's a successful season for the Astros. If they don't make it, then obviously that could be a not successful.
Is Espada's job on the line?
No.
I don't think so either.
Regardless of even if the Astros don't make the playoffs?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Just because all the adversity, like you guys put up right now, that have to go through a rookie coach, where the injuries, all around, really, if you think about it, all around in some areas. So I don't think, I agree with you guys. I don't think that's a possibility at this this season. I think
you don't want to see Verlander as a player coach.
Say it again.
You don't want to see Verlander as a player coach.
I mean. No, I mean whatever. I mean honestly, I mean no. I think right now it's in my opinion. I think Espada's doing the best with what he can, and so it's how do you call it? With the injuries that have piled up, and it's not an excuse, but I think there's a point right now where the Astros, I feel like they're doing pretty good, better than what they did at the beginning. I think they're finding that rhythm, and once you get more guys coming back in, Urquidy, Luis Garcia, Lance McCullers, hopefully, you'll start seeing more things mesh together, and I think from there you're really going to find out what's going on with the Astros, how the Astros are going to put up against the opponents. Because if you think about it, they did pretty decent against the Brewers, and the Brewers are at the top of their division. Cleveland's at the top of their division right now, if I'm not mistaken, and they did pretty well against Cleveland. The first time I think they faced I can't remember if it was the first time or the second time, they gave the Yankees quite a fight. So I mean, the Astros, even the start, no matter where it is the record right now, I mean, there's still a lot of talent in this team. There's still a lot of talent.
I'm sure the league is pleased that the Astros are not hot right now, like how they usually are. But I'm pretty sure everybody in the league, especially the division, is scared that the Astros are getting back on track.
I'll say this. When it hits summertime for the Astros, they play excellent and great baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to the summertime, for some reason, they start heating up. So
no pun intended.
That's why, that's especially with this Texas heat. But yeah, I honestly think when it comes to summer, which is getting here pretty soon, they're going to start heating up, and then the division should look a little bit different, I think.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah, definitely.
We got to go catch a game, guys. Come on.
We got to catch a game.
We got to go catch a game.
That's right. Bring on the Blitz and full steam ahead. We're catching the game together. That'd be fun. All right, gentlemen, I do want to thank you both for joining us today and just talking Texans with us, talking some Astros as well. And, this has been a great episode, and I hope to do this with you guys more often again. This was great. And again, I do want to thank you both for that. And biggest thanks to the Esquina podcast network for allowing us to be a part of them and that network. So please follow Esquina podcast network on their Instagram account at Esquina, just like you see it there, and of course on the X account at Esquina as
Twitter.
Well. And also please don't forget to follow
these guys, bro.
Exactly.
Follow these guys
at Full Steam Ahead. That's their YouTube, that's their Instagram, that's their X account. Follow them up for top tier Astros content, news, you name it. They're there at the games. They'll let you know exactly what's going on. Do not miss their content. Amazing top tier Astros content. The guys from the Full Steam Ahead. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming up. We'll definitely come back again on our show, and we'll do some more Texans and Astros talk. What do you guys have coming on?
I don't.
Like, what do you guys have coming on?
It's like, I don't know who you guys
Right, yeah. No, what do you guys have coming on? Is there anything y'all want to
plug or anything
y'all are doing special? Because I know y'all were in Mexico at one point during the series.
Yeah.
Is there anything else special that you guys have coming
I was
on?
so jealous.
I
I
know.
was so jealous.
I mean, right now we're trying in the works of maybe possibly making a MLB podcast. So stay tuned to that. And then, of course, All-Star for the MLB All-Star weekend. We'll be out there covering and doing some content for not just the Astros, just Latinos in general in Major League Baseball.
Exactly. There you go. There you go. Unidos. All right, guys. That's going to be it. Thank you guys for joining us again. Appreciate y'all. See y'all next week. Bye. Peace.
Appreciate it.